this time around, I'd like to discuss edges and point out a few things that you might want to consider for future works in regards to what kind of edges there are out there and how to use them to your advantage. If you look at a subject like this, there's a lot going on, a lot of variety, multiple opportunities for focal points. So obviously, the first thing you want to do is decide, what's your idea here? What's your concept? What's the focus, and where do I want to control the viewer's attention or force the viewer to look? Let me just put a little color in this pen here. When I took this photograph, the thing that really caught my attention was this transition from shadow to light, and the nice color from the cool to the warm there. It was really pretty and really quite interesting. So if that is where I'm going to place my attention, I have to go in and figure out where am I going to put hard edges, which are going to command attention, and where am I going to soften edges, which is going to allow the viewer to move right past areas like that. So let's just kind of talk about what's going on here. When a camera processes information like this, it doesn't soften edges. It doesn't consider what's happening with edges. It just processes the information in front of it, and it averages things. So it's very different than the way the human eye gathers information and sends it to the brain and how we process information. So keep that in mind. So we have a variety of different edges here. If you look, that's a pretty hard edge in that cliff there, right? And there are a couple reasons. One, the very nature of what it is, a rock face against the sky, and two, a dark value against a lighter value. So you have contrast there too. If you come a little bit forward and look at these trees, the very character of what it is, the physical nature of what it is thousands of little branches out towards their very end where they create the illusion of a shape when in fact they're many, many little elements, sort of like your hair on your head. So by nature, it's a soft edge. But again, then you've got this value contrast here, so that tightens it up a little bit. So you can go in and decide based on how it supports this, the focal area, how far you want to go in terms of softening that edge. Now, a third edge we have in here, if you look at the fall color in this tree up here versus the red rock, they are so close in color and value that you can't physically, man, I'm really squinting my eyes and looking to try to figure out where that transition is. That's how close it is. So when they come close together like that, that's referred to as a lost edge. So you've got to figure out how you're going to use each one of those to reinforce your focal point and express your idea. So if this is the focus here, I'm going to want to keep my hardest edge probably right around in this water right here. And right as this shadow comes down, keep that edge hard as it gets near the focal point, and as it moves away, these cast shadows tend to get a softer edge. So as it moves away, just go ahead and soften that out, and it'll keep the attention over here. Now you're going to have to go in and soften this edge as well, so it pushes that cliff back and doesn't give it a whole lot of attention. Same thing up here, okay? So now you're directing the viewer's attention down here, where you want it to be, just by virtue of controlling the edges in your subject. So you're going to see subjects like this where you have a whole variety of edges. You don't have to paint them exactly as you see them. Really think this through, folks, and how these edges are going to reinforce or take away from your overall idea. If you look up here, you have another kind of a soft and in some places lost edge. You get a little more value contrast here between the light and shadow, but there's enough shadow back here that those are so close that it's a very soft edge. Right here as it transitions into all shadow, that edge is lost, or so soft that you can barely see it. You get a little more definition with edge work and the contrast of these rocks down here, again, by nature of what they are and the value contrast. So really, look these over and think about how you want to direct the viewer's attention. If you're going to make this tree the focal point because it has a lot of character and interest, figure out a way to bring you right up into that, and then maybe go ahead and carve a harder edge in the canopy of that tree. Maybe introduce some of this fall color in there to create a little bit more color, and bring it down here where you have the contrast of the higher key yellow against that dark value. Now you're starting to bring the viewer's attention there, and you can handle the edges accordingly to reinforce that as a focal point. Of course, if that's going to happen, go down here and soften this edge as well, and you're beginning to take control and think in terms of design and structure and order and how you're going to direct the viewer. So I hope that helps. This is a good photographic image for that kind of thing because there's such a variety here. I would never paint it just as I see it. Just go ahead and consider everything and how it looks. And when you do focus on this area here, squint your eyes. And like I say, out of your peripheral vision, ask yourself, what's that edge like there? What's this one on this tree here? How is this one coming up or being influenced by my attention being over here? And that's very telling. What a lot of folks tend to do is look right at a given thing and decide what that edge is. And even when you're outdoors, you're going to come up with hard edges on distant mountains 10 miles out. But when you focus on something else, they tend to soften out. So keep that in mind, okay? Hi, my name is Matt Smith. One of the primary goals of this online course is to give folks the opportunity to study with me for a full year at their convenience, on their own time frame. It's not always easy to block out a week or more time to travel to a distant location for the purpose of studying with an artist of choice. Allowing oneself to study as their schedule permits creates a more relaxed atmosphere, which in turn opens the mind to learning. This is an opportunity I really wish I had in my early years. The course begins with an introductory module covering the basic consideration of tools, equipment, studio arrangement, lighting, the importance of indoor versus outdoor time, photography as a tool, and much more. This first module will set the tone for the remaining modules, which will dive more deeply into the basics of drawing, value, design, and color. In the remaining 4 modules, I'll discuss why these basics are important, how to identify them, and in return, how to use them not only to analyze your chosen subject, but how to use them to create a blueprint for building your painting. It is so important to train your mind to see and think as an artist rather than someone who just documents what's in front of them. The way to do this is by understanding these fundamentals and applying them to the subject at hand. In other words, see by way of the basics, line, shape, value, etc., rather than all the physical components that make up the finished scene, like twigs, pebbles, and leaves. I'll then reinforce these concepts with both unedited visuals, photographs, and finished paintings that support the idea at hand. I'll then complete a demo of a subject that represents the particular fundamental addressed in each module. I'll also include a variety of photographic images for student use. Participants will also have access to me throughout the year by way of a private Facebook group. You'll be able to contact me with questions related to areas of difficulty or whatever you may be working on and want to discuss. This one-on-one time is where we can really fine-tune areas of interest for you. Thank you, and I really hope you can join me.